Okay, so as you've seen, the plan is to do some Nogi Bolos today. So first I want to say, like, there's so much material, right? Because I really dove into this the last couple of months, and I've always been dabbling with Bolos, but there's so much to discover, so I really dove in. And I try to give you like a nice sequence at the end, like similar like we did on Wednesday in the class, that you can make use of. But of course, there's a lot of interesting spots. You know, what if he does this? Can we do this? And I try to help you out if you have questions in between. But also at 1 o'clock, I want to do a post session basically on the mat over there. And then, like that's the beginning of Open Mat. You can just come to me, and then we can talk like more thorough about every question you have and every problem, and ideas and everything. Okay. But, yeah, that's the part. The other thing is, there was the question, how advanced is it? Because it's labeled as advanced, and the main reason it's advanced is because we do a lot of inversions, right? So it's not that advanced, but if you've never done inversions, if we're inverting from here, right? It can be a little bit daunting if you've never done inversions, right? Like the basic Granby of inversions. We don't go over them in detail, so if you already know them, that's good. You can still try it, of course, but I don't have time to explain too much in depth, right? Also, you can come later though, and I can show you everything about inversions. Just like quick words, when you invert, always like bring your shoulders up and make sure you're over your shoulder line. Right? You never want to be on your neck. You always want to be here, nice on the shoulders. Your head should be light, and you invert like this. You never want to be so high that your neck gets compressed, because then you get hurt, and you're also weak here. So you want to be basically where you would put a barbell. That's where you want to be for the most part. There are ways to do the bolo without inversions, which we're not covering in this class, but also you can come later to the post session and we can talk about this too. Okay? Yeah, lastly, like a lot of this stuff is like adapted from Mike Mitsumici's V game. He will come out with a Nogi bolo set soon, so maybe he invalidates everything I show. But yeah, like he has so much. He has 4 entire instructions out on this. If you like bolos, like I highly recommend to check this out. It's very, very worthwhile. Okay? So the start we do today is like very, not like practical, because I just want to focus on the finishing part first, and then we build backwards, which is like a concept I stole again from Ryan Hall. He uses this all the time. Start with the finish and work back. So you're not, because if I start with the finish, then you're like, oh, what comes after, right? So we start behind and then we build forward. And the first thing, we just go into this very weird type of entry, which you basically would never do, where you go in like this, between the legs apart, right? So it's like, if you're familiar with leg locks, this would be an outside ashi, and it's often confusing to you in the beginning. So don't go in like this, with the legs in between, but you're kind of like scissoring, almost like a kanibazami type motion, right? You're scissoring like this, and you want to grab the leg like this. That's more or less the bolo position, right? There are variations, but that's more or less when I say bolo, that's what I mean is this position, right? And how we get in there are many ways. We look at this later, right? But the most common one is from a De La Riva hook, where you invert, you get into this position, right? You see I have the same, whether my leg is here, or even my leg is here, it's more or less all the same position, okay? And just so you have a basic entry, if you've never done this, you can just start here. So you sit with the partner, you scissor your legs, and then you just slide in like this, right? Or you can also, if you want to have an easier angle, you can just start from standing, stack him slightly, step to the middle with your outside leg. So your outside leg steps to the middle, and your knee goes behind this hip, like this, right? That's the first way we get into the position. Not practical, but we build on the practical entry later, okay? So when you're here, there are many finishes of the bolo, depending on his reaction. The one we focus on today is like one of the more common ones, is the stomp finish, where we want to be in line with him, and we want to stomp him here so his hip comes up. So he gets slightly stacked, like in a stack pass. His hip comes up, and then we can scoot behind him, we can put a hook in, and go to the back, right? Just as a rough guideline. And this is like every type of bolo finish we do, we want his hip in some way on top of our hips. Right? In this case, I get it by bringing his hip up with this lever, with this fulcrum of the hip, and pushing the lever of his leg. Right? So now it comes up. We go into alternative finishes later, but this is like the main one we start with. Okay? So what you're going to do, like I said, you come in here, and you want to be in line with him. So the more you are towards perpendicular, the less it works. Like if you ever done bolos, this may happen to you a lot. You push here, and his knee turns in. Your knee turns towards me. Yeah, this. Right? You probably experience this a lot. You're like here, and you try, and you're like, oh, I'm moving. Oh, there it's gone. Right? This is mostly due to not being in line with him and being too much angle like this. Okay, so similar to the Wednesday class, you want to be like aware of your angle, and your angle ideally is like in one straight line with him almost, right? And the reason for this is when you push now, if you stomp with your leg, it brings his knee to his chest, right? And the more his knees to his chest, the better you can stack him. Just like when you do a stack pass, right? You want to stack him. And it's hard to do this from this angle, but here, right, to put pressure in this direction is really hard. And if I stomp here, I miss everything. Right? So I have to be aware of this. This is like really the whole focus of most finishes is like you want to get this angle nice and tight. The opposite you do from passing, right? That's why we always also see there is a nice connection because every time he tries to defend the bolo, he opens up passes. Every time he tries to defend passes, he gives us the bolo, right? So they play all leg locks too, right? They play nice together. Okay? So again, you're in here, and you want to be hip to hip, or hip bone to hip bone, even more specifically. I want to be with my hip right next to his hip here. Right? And for a grip, at the beginning, you just grab this far hip. See how I have this far hip here? Just grab this far hip. Which makes it, we go into alternative grips later, but this makes it a little bit harder for him to scoot away, and also pull your hip to his hip. Right? And you see I'm belly up. I'm basically looking up this guy. One common error is also this other angle where you turn towards him like this. Now if I push, again he can slip out, and I'm losing him here. Right? Because I don't have base with this foot. Right? This foot, I can't base here. But if I'm looking belly up, now this can base, and if I stomp here, I'm overdoing it now, but you see how his hip comes up, right? Okay. Okay. Of course, you don't want to do this far because then you could just roll over, right? Yeah, and come out like this, or go to the far side, right? Let's say you would drop to the far side here, right? Kind of like this, and go into like half-step passing. So, we're doing here. We're in here, right? Nice belly up, hip bone to hip bone in one line, and when we press and he comes up, we instantly grab his hip. Right, the hip bone. There are alternative grips, you can grab the legs and the arms, but in the beginning it's really nice. The hip is always there, you know where the hip is, you can't really hide it. You grab the hip here, right? And then from here, this knee goes to the floor. Okay? So you don't want to do this flying transition, which a lot of people do, because then he might slip out, right? I do the flying transition and then he like pummels out and I lose him. So I stomp this knee here to the floor. My leg can be straight. The hook goes into his knee, and if I don't get it in, I can bend his like this for the twister hook, right? That's like what's called a twister hook. Right? When we go in like this, I kick him forward, so there's a nice stretch on him, and then I can walk up, catch the near shoulder, far shoulder, get it. Right? A lot of times you can pull him open here too, like if you have this grip here, you can pull him open, so he's really stretched out, and you can go right away for the choke. It's not that easy to defend. One last time. Here, the most important point to keep in mind is like when you're here, don't be on your side. Like when you do the entry, this like weird artificial entry, you'll be a little bit on your side, right? You don't want this. You want to correct this so basically your sternum faces upwards, right? And your hip has to connect to his hip. If you do this for a while, you get this feeling. If your hip's not connecting, you feel like, oh, it's off, and you know, it's probably not working. So you want the hip, pull yourself to him, so you feel the hip touch the hip from the side, right? Hip on hip. And then you stomp forward, right? Stomp forward, so this angle gets closed up, and his hip will rise, and pull him towards you. So he can't roll away. If he tries to roll away, it should be hard, right? Like away, I mean, yeah, like this way, right? He can't go. If I'm pulling him here, he can't turn in either, right? If he tries to go to the other side, I hold him with my leg here, and then I can switch here. Okay? And here it's important, don't stomp with this like this, because then it's really loose here. You want to go with the knee to the floor, put this one in, you can bend it here, and then you can work your way up. So come out, go to back control. And I'm actually looking at back control today. Last time. And here, this one, you go belly up, you stomp this leg forward, strong, right? And you stay belly up, don't go too early. If I'm too early here, you go around the corner, I lose it. So I stay disciplined, stay belly up, grab his hip, punch the knee to the floor, hook in. This one, it's enough if your heel is in, so his leg can't go away. Then this foot can help, bend his toes, and I get this hook, the twister hook. And with this, I stretch him forward and put his knee to the ground. Because now it's really stuck, right? If he's here, it's still loose. He might be able to whip up and like counter me with the bottom. But once I have his knee to the floor, pinned like this, there's no way of countering this foot, right? So now it's really tight. And here, you have the near shoulder, far shoulder, stretch him out. Any questions or different angles? Anyone want to see from a different angle? The entry is clear. Right, let's do it. 1, 2. So there were a lot of good questions. I hope everyone got it. I know this entry is like super awkward, but it kind of forces you to do the right things because if you do the entry properly, like we now do, right after this demonstration, then you won't be in this weird angle, like sideways like this, because this is a horrible angle for the finish we're doing, right? And you want to be like this, belly up, right? But that's what I'm trying to get to force you to do here. If you come in like this, because you can't get in this weird entry otherwise, then you have to go like this. And then you see my hips connect, right? So it comes sideways here. There's space between our hips, and I want to have my hip close to his. Right? And this grip can help you to pull you in and keep him from pulling away. Right? So you go hip to hip, and you stomp here. This one stomps towards the floor. This one stomps towards my front. Right? So this and this both stomp. Right? So the basic movement is just like this one stomps here and this one stomps here. Right? It just stomps together. Just nice stop. And you stay. The biggest problem for most people is staying disciplined and belly up. Right? Most of the time you want to turn towards the guy and then you lose everything because this hook, this bridge, or this not hook, this post here, right? It slides off when you go sideways. It slides off. But if you stay belly up, everything's fine. So that's like one of the most important parts. Like I'm in line with him, right? I have a nice strong post here next to him, and then I'm pushing I'm stomping to the front and stomping to the floor, like this. And his hip comes up really high in front of me, and I want him in front of me. I don't want him like here, because now the problem is if I start chasing him, like I showed you not to do, then everything collapses, right? I'm now, oh, there's the back, and then I'm, like my post collapses, his hip drops, and everything. I want to keep the stack. Like the golden rule of boloing is get the stack and keep the stack, right? So I want to have him stacked and keep him stacked, okay? Because this is back exposure. Now his back is off the mat, I can be now behind his back, right? So I'm here, I come to the back, and then this one, you want to stomp your knee to the ground. You see this? If you stomp your foot here, with this one, I can't get his knee deep enough, then it might be hard to reach in. But if you stomp your knee to the floor, now you have space with your hook here. And then you can always help to get this twister hook. And the twist hook is important because now I can push him forward and pin his knee. Now he can't reverse the position, but now it's really, really hard for him to reverse. While when I'm here, there's always the danger if he's strong, he pushes back into me and reverses the position, and then he comes on my back, which is the worst thing to happen. Okay, so that's that. Now we go into like a little bit more realistic entry, and we start from double-seated. And the reason we choose double-seated is because even if you start standing or start in other positions, you will go through this phase here, whether you want it or not. So there are some exceptions, but for the most part, you go through this right here. And you often find yourself here anyways if you like do like pummeling and stuff or double guard full situations, right? So you find yourself here either by being actually here like we are, or in a transition, like you're standing first and you have De La Riva hook and you pull him down and you land here anyways. Okay? And there's a whole other topic here to be discussed about the role of the De La Riva hook in the leg lock game. Okay? Just like real quick, one advantage is most people who want to go for leg locks, they pummel to the inside and they want to shoot through with one leg, right, and attack your legs. It's perfectly fine. But then both guys want to have inside position all the time. So I want inside, he pummels for inside. Like, it's constantly this fight. Right? And it's like, it's really annoying. If both guys are good, then it's really hard to get something. And the big advantage of having the De La Riva hook, I can use it from the outside. I don't need inside position. And once I have it, he can't shoot through anymore to get the inside. Right? So if I'm just here, lazy, doing nothing, he can shoot through, get an Ashigurami on my leg. But if I have my De La Riva hook in here, he can't shoot through anymore. I have good control over this leg. I can do different things. We can go into leg locks here, like Kyotera foot locks. But we can also go for the bolo, right? And they combine well, which is what we do now. So I have this De La Riva hook. It's just a regular De La Riva hook, you know from standing, right? Just like when you're standing, you got this De La Riva hook, right? So my neck comes from the outside, behind his knee, and this hook right here is flexed, strong, and on his side. You want as little space as possible between your leg and his leg, so everything should be nice and snug. Right? And of course, we could break it down from here and stuff, right? And then you go for the bolo, or like I said, from now, just touch here. Right? So just my outside foot goes through, inside of his hip, and it's in front of his stomach. If you turn it in, this one keeps the distance. If he's really strong and he tries to come forward and smash you, he can't do this because you have this hook. It's very similar if you did the K class, K-guard class, Michael, you know the K-guard, to the hook we have in K, where we here on the hip. Right? It's the same thing here. We have this hook, it's a deep de la Riva hook, and we can use it to push. Right? If he tries to push into us, we can keep him down. Right? We keep him from pushing us. If I'm just like lazy here with this, and I'm just fumbling around, he might come up and then smash me, which is obviously not good. So you keep this strong hook, and I'm always trying to turn his knee inward. Right? This is the main focus here, to get the entry and to keep, while we do the transition, is to keep this to the inside. If this drifts to the outside, we can either do different things, different attacks, like the Terra footlock, or we can pummel back to the inside, right, and attack the inside. But for the Bolo, we need to have his knee to the inside. If his knee is going to the outside, Bolo is gone. You can't do it, at least not like this. You have to do complicated steps. But if you have it to the inside, it's perfectly fine. Right? So this knee here, it should never point like this. It should point to the inside. And you get this by pulling on here and kicking my hook, like this. Kicking the hook. And then I grab with this, I grab his thigh, I really grab some meat here, right, with the thigh. And this grip is surprisingly strong, keeping him from pulling out. Right? I keep this one too, but just like if you just play with this, you have him here and he tries to pull out his leg, it's not even that easy. Right? It looks like it doesn't do much, but this is not the strongest movement, right? Putting your knee to the chest. Plus you have the hook too. This one keeps him from pulling out, and this one from the ankle slides to his calf. So I grab meat, right? Grab calf meat, grab thigh meat, right? Grab as much as you can, and then you fall forward for the inversion. Right? So I'm falling as much as I can forward, right? Forward towards his hip, like this, and I invert. Right? And then you can go back to the finish. If the guy drops down, you can go back to the finish, which we do in a second, right? But for now, just sit in front of each other, get your de la Riva hook, have a nice push, and pull with this one. Grab the thigh, right? This one can also help and push his far leg. Right? If it's too much, just ignore this for now, but it helps to push his far thigh. And then you grab here, and you want to fall forward. You don't want to fall here, right? Then it's too far away. You want to fall forward. Right? Forward as much as you can, shrug your shoulders, and get your head close underneath his knee as you can. And you can either keep this grip on the hip here, or if he stays up, you can also upgrade to his far hip. You either have his far hip or his near hip. Okay. In the beginning, I think it's easier to grab the far hip, but realistically later you have to often make do with the near hip. Okay, but for now, grab the far hip. So if you turn a little bit, talk to camera so grip. Okay. You want to have this type of grip and really pull in with this grip. Right? You see my shoulder on the other side is right next to his butt. My shoulder's on one side of his hip, and my hands on the other side. So I'm pulling him in like this. Right? And then from here, we have different scenarios. One is to focus his back, and we need the exact same scenario we just started in, right? Which is the main line I want you to focus on. Like, do this first, right? If he's falling on his back, oftentimes we do this to push your, like if I land for this, for example, we can talk about later, he puts the leg away or something, right? Then he will always fall to his back. If he's on his hands, okay, if he's on his hands here, he can't use his hands to push his knee unless I'm really lazy here. If I'm super lazy here, he can use his hands and push my feet away. But if I keep pressure on him all the time and pressure into him, he can either use his hands to stay up, or if he tries to use his hands, he will fall down. Okay? So you need this constant stacking pressure. Just always want to stack into him, stack into him. You don't want to be yeah. So you don't want to be like here, right? This looks shitty and it feels shitty. You don't want to be compressed like this. You want to be nice and open, like your hips are pushing, like you do an armbar, and you have pressure into it. If you try to use his hands, it should be really hard without falling. And then you just where you started, right? Here, you do everything as before. And we later do a slight refinement of this position, but for now this is good enough. So here, and put the de la Riva hook in, strong de la Riva hook. This knee has to point to the inside, right? And to the outside for the Bolo. Point to the side, grab meat, right? So grab meat, and fall forward on your shoulders, right? Like this. Like this. You can tight either the near hip or the far hip. For now, take the far. And if he falls down, boom, you just go here, do this. Okay? This is like the main thing I want everyone to do. Because we're showing time, I'll show another thing. If this is already known to you and boring to you, I'll show a slight variation. But this, you don't have to do this. Nothing we do after builds on this. So this is just a bonus for the ones who are more advanced with this. If he stays up on his knees, which doesn't happen too often in rolling, to be honest, but in drilling it happens all the time because he wants to see what I do. but it can happen in rolling too, right? If he's here, I can't push him back. If I try to do the same finish we did earlier, I can't really push him here, right? So when he's like here, his hip can be put on top of us. So what I do is I grab his far thigh, I bring my foot, my free outside foot, this foot here, we do these stomps. I bring it behind his knee, and then both hands on his hips, pull to my chest first, and then down between my hips. Okay. I know it looks fancy, but it works pretty well. And do a lot of work with your legs, okay? So it's not that exhausting, okay? But only for the advanced guys. For the other guys, don't mess with this too much. Just, if the thing's boring, just do this. Right, you're here, you grab meat, you fall forward like this. The guy stays up, you feel like you can't push him down. Right? You go behind his back with this one grip, and behind his knee with this grip, pull him in, and get his hook in. And now my legs help me to pull him on my chest. It's a very little motion, right? I'm just pulling it on my chest, and then downward towards my hips, in between my legs. Okay? Boom. And you can only do this if he's on his hands. If he's not on his hands, don't bother with it. Right? If he's falling down, let's say we're here, if he's falling down, and I try to do this, I can't pull him on top of him. It's super heavy. His weight is too far away from me, right? It's super heavy. I can still use the same grip to make him tilt, which is fine. I can still use the same hook here to make him tilt, but I can't pull him on top, right? So you have to know and be aware what your opponent does, right? If he's here, I can't pull him on top. If he's coming up on his hands, now I can pull him on top, and then I can push him down, and then go to the back, okay? So for the advance, I still for the rest, just to not confuse you. For the rest, just focus here on getting the knee to the inside, grabbing his thigh, his calf, falling over, coming through, grabbing the far hip, and then he's falling down, right? And from here, you do the exact same thing you just did before. This foot comes close to his body, as close as you can here. This one stomps to the front, this one stomps to the floor. And you stay belly up. You stay belly up, you grab the hip. You bring this knee to the floor, heel to the knee, bring him up, kick him forward, then collect the near shoulder, far shoulder, stretch him out. Oftentimes you can get the rear naked here because it's so stretched out. He tries to hide his hide the choke here. It's hard because I can pull him open so hard, and then you can punch in the choke. But if you don't get it, he's blocking well with his hands, you know, then you just take it back, work from there. Any questions or different angles? No. All right, 1, 2. From what I've seen, most people got it. If you didn't, like I said, you can always later come to the pre-session, post-session, and we talk about it. Like from here, you just have this regular De La Riva hook, right, and you slide forward. And like I said, you want to keep his knee pointed to the inside, because otherwise it gets really hard. And the problem with this entry, like I just showed it, it's like basically a good entry, but there's like 1 or 2 steps missing that we're now adding, right? Because they're a little bit, not everyone finds them so easy. So the problem is here, if his knee is like this, I have perfect control with my shin to keep his knee on the inside. But once I start inverting from here, now there's nothing keeping his knee there. And this will happen to you a lot. Sorry. This will happen to you a lot. People will free their knee, and then you're in this kind of position, then it's bad. You can recover later, you can do fancy stuff like this, and come on top, and go to the other side, you know, stuff like this. But you don't want to do it if you don't have to. You know, so you want to avoid this knee from opening up. And if you do it like I just showed you this one, and you have a good opponent, he will always open this knee, right? So you're like, oh, I have perfect knee position. I go here, and he opens the knee, and you're like, ah, shit, happened again. Okay. So one adjustment I made is to push my butt into his knee. So you're basically just sliding up his shin with your butt, right? Kind of like a rocket ramp, like you're sliding up with your butt. Okay. So I'm here, and now I stick my hook in deep and slide up with my butt. So I take the same grips as before, and I slide up my butt like this. And now I'm sitting, basically my butt is sitting on his knee, right? I could force him here and go topside too. I could also continue with the bolo, but my butt is basically right in the groove of his knee. You will feel like how it just fits there, right? Like you go up with your butt and it's just like you're sliding, then, oh, that's a nice place for my butt, right? It feels really nice. Maybe it's just on Mark, I don't know, but I think like everyone I tried on, it feels pretty good with the butt, right? So you're here, you slide up, right? You slide up. Don't try to go invert and then up, because then you lose him already. Right, so let's say I'm already coming up here, now he's already opening up, and now my butt, and then I can't do it. So you want to go really like, you have this connection with your butt on his shin, and you're sliding like a cheese grater, right? Slide to his knee. Okay? So if you look, how would you, let's see this, maybe from this angle. Look at my butt. Here, and you see how my butt is connected with the shin, connected, and I'm sliding onto his knee. And I still have this grip. I still have this grip with my broken hand here. You still have this grip here, right? And you're pulling here and pushing with the butt. My butt is pushing this. There's no way you can open his knee. It doesn't matter how strong it is. I have base on my shoulder, and you can't do it, right? Like we could go topside from here, but oftentimes they still push against it, and so we try to use his force against it. And so you're pushing against it, and we use this to go back to our bolo position. Okay? So we do the same thing we did before, just with this butt on the knee. Like so we have this, and you can, in the beginning, of course, be a good partner, but then try to be an asshole a little bit and try to open your knee, right? Like try to test the other guy. So we instantly feel if I'm loose here, I'm like, oh, I have the knee, and he opens. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't have the knee. Okay? When I'm here and I'm pulling in, and like he tries to open the knee, it should be hard, right? My butt is on his knee, pushing in actively. Right? And then I'm inverting and get my grips, and I can do everything we did before. And then that's the main thing I want you to focus on. Okay? Then again, for the advanced guys, I give 2 things in one because we're running out of time. Sometimes the guy is super defensive, and you're here, and he's already running away. It happens. Okay? So they run away, and then if you try this, it's still hard to get your butt there, right? So he's running away. I'm like, it's still hard, and I might lose him like this. So then what you do instead is you bring this shin, opposite shin, behind his knee. Okay? So when I'm here, so I try to do it, but he's like maybe giving me a hard time. This shin is coming behind. So I'm like this, right? If you look at this, I'm inverted. My shin is pushing inside of his knee. So now again, if he tries to open it, it's really hard, right? And of course, we don't stay here. We go all the way through, and we land in what's like Latin Jack calls the waiter guard, which is basically a waiter guard from waiter sweep from the deep half guard, right? To land this. So it's the same position we had before. Just this leg is not outside here, free. It's behind his knee now. That's the only difference. It gives you a good pull too. If he tries to run away, you can let it start here, holding on to him, maybe pull him back to you, and go back to your finishes. So again, 2 things I gave you. The most important one I want everyone to do is like from here, slide through with your butt. So you have your same grips. This one's really important. You pull yourself forward, right? You pull yourself in. This foot helps too a little bit to make your butt light. Your butt light. So you take this and you shoot through with your butt to his knee. Right, and you're heavy here, and then we can go into inversion, do everything as before. Or, alternatively, and you will need this for sure in rolling, right, if they defend heavily, you just can't get your butt, maybe to block your foot, something to block your foot here, you can shoot the deep hook, right, use the opposite shin. So this shin slides right in here. Shin slides in, and I'm like this. And then we can either go back, or we can later start working from here, not from here. But, yeah, the first variation, more important. Okay? Try both. Any questions? Want to see it again? 1, 2. So, I try to limit everything, so I can put everything in that I want, but it still took me too long. But I hope this makes sense for most people. There's so much more to explore, like different reactions you can give you and problems to encounter at every stage with like beginning, middle, end. Like I said, we can meet at 1 o'clock at the drill area, the side mats, and then you can ask me anything. I can show you more stuff. There's a lot of good stuff, but just to iterate, like the main things to take away is like start using De La Riva hooks from double seated too, right? Like sometimes you already have De La Riva in, which is fine of course, but even if you find yourself here, you can use it to counter his inside pummeling, right? Which is really effective. And then from here you have good attacks, like the Bolo is one great attack. And the main focus for this entry is his knee. We never want his knee to point outside, we want to put it inside, right? If you need an easy fix, of course, if he points too far outside, point back to the inside, try to get your own entry on the leg, right? But my better solution is like every time we make a transition, something could go wrong. You don't want to do it if you don't have to. So you want to have pressure on his knee like this, and then slide forward with either your butt, or often you go into this waiter bolo style, right? Where this shin slides right over his knee, right over his knee here, and I'm pinching. Then when I'm here, those two, they like pinch together, right? And I have him here. And then from here we can go back to the other thing. We can do a lot of cool things. You can do really basic stuff. Let's go to leg drags, and you can do Yeah, you can do so much cool stuff. One thing I definitely wanted to teach, so I just quickly mention it, is like I left this out consciously, but it's really important, is to be aware of this counter bolo. Okay, so I mentioned it to a few people individually, but just so everyone's seen it, I have to be aware with this leg not to get counter bolo. If I'm coming over here and I do this, he can counter bolo me, right? So if you go back, so what I do is like if my knee's in the middle here and my foot is over there, if I'm over here, I'm always in danger of being counter bolo. You just need to push my foot, bring his knee behind my knee here and his shin behind my knee, and now he grabs my far hip, and I can't push anymore now. This is basically invalidated. And he can push me here, and then he gets the bolo. Okay. So that would actually have been the next move we did to learn the counter bolo, just so you don't run to it yourself. If you do everything correctly, it's hard to do the counter bolo, but like very few people do everything correctly, right? So you want to be aware of this. You can use the counter bolo yourself, and you want to be aware not to have it used against you. If you're in with the shin already, you can counter bolo. You're safe here. Right? If my knee's on the outside like this, I'm safe too. Right? But if my knee drifts in front of him, now I'm in danger. Right? Kind of like if you do leg locks, right? This is kind of the knee you want to protect, similar. You want to keep it on the outside of his hip. If it goes over his hip, you're in danger. Right? And you see this a lot when people do entries like from top. It's probably the most common, but there are many others. If I do like a bolo from top, and my knee is on the floor here, right? And I roll, I'm instantly in danger. So you can always counter this, right? If I do it like this. So then you would learn, if you do it from here, you want to do your bolo with the knee outside, right? Because now if I roll, my knee is safe. He can't put it in easily, right? It's a big difference, like few centimeters make a big difference whether my knee's here or here. Right? And then if you go to different finishes from here, so just be aware of this knee not being in front of his body, but on the side of his hip. Or if you really want to be safe, you can always go to this waiter position, stuck in here, right? And now I'm safe for now. And from here, you can do so many cool things. Right? Like another reaction you find a lot is he pushes this way, because now I can't get in there. Even if I get everything set here, I can't do the stomp because he just counter rotates right here. So then you want to go to the other direction and put in this crab right here, right? And you can work with crab rights, come here, smash him in this direction, or he pushes you back, you go back to the other side. You know, you can switch sides. But there's so much cool stuff I would love to show you, but we're running out of time. But like I said, 1 o'clock, it is, yeah, we meet over there. Right? And then I have a class at 6 today. We look what to do when you're actually on the back, which kind of fits nicely. I just took it from someone who got sick, but kind of fits. So yeah, if you want to see what I do from the back, then 6 o'clock. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Let's take a picture.